Okay, so this is the game I'm currently working on. The first thing you'll notice is the camera buttons in the corner. This is how you move around. I'm planning to add WASD and joystick movement soon, but for now you have to use these. There's obviously zoom in, zoom out, up, left, down, right, and this button resets you to the original position. It's high up because the boards on this game are going to be like quite big. This is just a little demo board. But yeah, you should be able to start off the game being able to view the whole board. So if you zoom in, there's land and ocean, and the yellow land is land that I own. If you click on, so there's two icons here, gun and hammer. If you click on any of them, you'll see that this is my country, is the yellow land. And if you do that for this unclaimed land, you'll see that no one owns it. And on this ocean here, no one owns it. But I do own this bottom row of ocean. Let's start with the building, the hammer. This is construction, and this is where you can build things such as factories and cities and stuff like that. So when you click on a square, it gives you like a little selection box. Here I can press build railway and it starts construction of one. And for some reason the button's still here. It let me build it twice.
You stupid.
I can build factories here, and it starts them under construction, and the railways too. And this says 1 out of 3. This is because in this game there are rounds, and it takes a certain amount of rounds to construct things, so you can't just summon something instantly onto the map. Here I can build a city. Well, actually I don't have enough points. Points are up here in the corner, in this little UI. This is a normal city here. This is a supply city. If I upgrade this city to a supply city, then it's 1 out of 2. That means next round it will be done. So cities generate points. A supply city is a normal city, but when you're summoning in equipment like soldiers and tanks each round, you can spawn them in at supply cities, but you can't do that with normal cities. So that's the construction menu. You can build things. If I go on an unclaimed square, it says it has no building. If I go on an unclaimed ocean square, it just says building, it's not possible, and the same for a claimed ocean square because you can't build in the sea. If I go on someone else's land, then it tells me what's there, but it just won't let me build on it. Or it will say the square currently has no building, like this, and there'll be no options here. Now the other button here is the gun. On a lot of these squares there's nothing, but on this square here there's a list of things that are on this square. So for example, there's a soldier. I can show you on this square too. There's a truck, this square too, there's also a truck. So interact currently does nothing. This is going to be how you attack things and how you mount things onto other things, such as getting a truck onto a boat to ship it somewhere. That's what interact is going to be for, attacking and mounting. And move obviously moves it, so you can move up, down, left, right, and you can toggle this box here to claim what you're moving to. So if I move the truck here with claim on, it would take the square. Contents shows you what's inside of the equipment. So inside of this truck, there's a soldier that's driving and a normal soldier. With this soldier, I can stop driving, and then there's no driver. And then if I try to move, it will give me an error sound effect. And if I look in the console, it says equipment needs driver but has none. This is because a truck can't just like move by itself. So if I make this soldier drive, then this is the soldier with 1 out of 2 HP. That's what that represents. You can dismount him from the truck entirely or stop him driving. I can click on this soldier here to usurp control. And this is 1 out of 2. This is 2 out of 2. As you can see, if I press drive, now the driver has 2 out of 2 and the soldier has 1 out of 2. So they swapped. If I dismount the driver, here's the soldier that was driving. He's got 2 HP. And I can make him claim this square, and now the square is mine, and I can build on it, as you can see. I couldn't do that before. Now I've got this truck here. What I'm going to do is move it down into this square. Actually, no, I want to show you something else. I'll use this truck here to claim this square. And now the square is also under my control, so I could build things there, but I'm out of points. And with this truck here, I can move to the right, and it doesn't look like there's anything there, but what it... Oh. Oh, he's not driving, that's why. If I send him to the right, then he actually moves to the other side of the map. So I based this off of a globe, and if this was a globe, there's poles at the top and bottom, and the sides are like connected to each other. So basically this factory is also here, and then if I go a bit further, it'll be also here, and just keep repeating. Basically he's moving across the other side of the globe, if that makes sense. And there is an option for this though, so if this is disabled, then you won't be able to cross to the side, and it'll be like a flat world. There's two options. There's sides loop or something like that. That's what this one is. And there's poles loop, which means, well, can you go across the pole? There's one more thing I want to do. I want to show you. I think it's in square 2-4. Yeah. If I take, so last sub-round moved is 0. So this number 3 can move. If I move him to 2-6, which is right at the top of the map, then if I check here, he's not there. Where is he? Oh no, he's not in the values folder. Now if I check onto 2-6, he's also not there. Bruh. Maybe there's an there's an equipment folder. Okay, now if I check onto 2-6, yeah, boom, here he is. So this soldier here, if I move him up and poles loop is enabled, boom, he moves here. However, there is an issue. So currently what happens is if you move up here, you'll come down on this square. If you move up here, you'll come down on this square. If you move up here, you'll come down on the same square. So it's like you're reflected across the middle square. But since I'm basing it on a globe, this is not how a globe works. I need to make it so it just moves you halfway across, because that makes more sense. So that's everything I want to show you. Now I can show you some code. So something I made this morning is this MusicHandler script. It's quite basic, but you'll need to see. So inside of replicated storage is a folder with 4 music tracks. This is what's referenced inside this code. It finds replicated storage and the music folder. And then there's a function here to find the next track, which chooses one of these that's not the previous track, so it gets a new one, otherwise you might hit the same one twice. And then it returns this through the function, and this function is called in play tracks. So play tracks sets previous track to 0, because at the start of the game there is no previous track, but we do need the variable to pass through to this function, so we set this to 0, and then it just goes forever and does a while true, so it's constantly playing a track. It sets the result of this function to here, so whatever is returned as track through this function comes out as current track in this function, and we pass through the previous track, which is initially 0, but then at the end we set it to the track that's just played. Here we play it and then we wait for the track to end. And then down here I call this function. I don't really need this function here like it would be. This is like an easier way to do it, but I format all of my scripts with variables, then functions, then triggers. Probably the most important script is GenerateBoard. This is quite a big script. It goes to line 187. As you can see here, I've got variables, functions, and triggers too. So yeah, here I've got required global variables. For server-side scripts, I have a required global variables instead of variables, and I have this module script here in server script service that just has, it's called global variables because it's every single variable that I'd ever need to reference from a server-side script ever. So I can always just, instead of finding each thing individually or hard coding it into each one, I can just change it here and it'll affect everything. It's much more organized in my opinion. It's got things like a table of information for each building ID and its model inside of server storage, which is here. Here are the models. There's models there, there's the color of the buildings, there's the name of the buildings. That's that, and there's something similar for equipment like soldiers, tanks, trucks, boats, and yes, there are nuclear bombs too. They're really expensive though. There's just an image ID, colors, board information folder. This is where there's loads of like metadata about the specific game you're making. So when you play this game, you can host your, well, it's not made yet, but when you play this game, you will host your own games or join other people's games, and that game will like go on for like, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depends how long it lasts. So this will need to be accessed multiple times. This just contains data about the game, such as who the players are and the colours of their country on the map. So mine was like yellow, how many points each player has, and like the costs set of different things, because the host might make nuclear reactors cost 1 point, so you can get loads of nukes, which would be funny. That's what this kind of is. So, GenerateBoard. This, as I've said, is a really, really big script. Probably the biggest script in the game, other than GlobalVariables might be bigger. No, it's actually not. To start with is... Now, this is just a placeholder, because when I've started to make like the things outside of this place, inside of the experience, when I make it so you can host a game and join a game, this won't happen every time, because this is just a hard-coded huge table of values about the game. This defines the actual game. It says how many squares there are, how many rows and columns, if you can loop with the polls and things, who the players are with their user IDs and what their countries' names are, what colours they are, how many points everyone has, where the equipment is, like soldiers. This basically defines the entire game. This is basically the test map and everything in it. When I make the actual game, this will be derived from data store service, and this will be derived from data store service, and it will save the information so you can access it later and rejoin and things like that, because you won't just play it all in one go. And also, if it's multiplayer, multiple people need to access it at the same time. What I've got is only one person joins a server, and if something updates, then it will data store services it, or whatever, and then that will have to be relayed to everyone else's servers if they're on at the same time. But this game is more like long term. You log on like every day, every 2 days to do your move, and you do it all in one go, and then you wait, you chat with people, you organise alliances and plans and things, that sort of thing. I have played this with my friends without it being coded, and I just ran it by like drawing things onto a map, and it was super fun. It took over all of our lives for like the time it was on, like a month for each game. It's good. I'm excited when this is done. So once it calls this function and passes in all of the values, it sets all of the data in the board information folder. Where does it do that? It does that here, and sets all of these values to whatever's passed through the function, so that will be derived from the data store, as I said. So these values don't matter. I could change this to 0. I could change this to blah blah blah. As you can see here, it says number of columns is 120. In the map, there were only like 5 columns, so that just proves that this doesn't mean anything, because it's all defined by what's in that big table. After it sets all of these, it goes here and it creates the board, and this just makes every single square by row and column. And then once it's got each square, it adds in, well, it anchors it, does the surfaces and stuff. It puts in decals, which are the squares, like the grid bits around it. The decal is like the lines here. That's a decal. And then it adds in all of the values too, which are like, it adds in the values, but it doesn't set the values, if that makes sense. So it adds in the value that would hold the current building ID, and the value that, and the folder that would hold all of the equipment in. But then after all of the setup's done, it goes into this really big section here, which is most of the script, which sets the values. So it sets which squares are oceans, which squares are buildable on, and what buildings are on them, if they have any, which squares have railways, who owns each square, or what country it is. And then this bit here, which goes down like 50 lines, this has all of the equipment, so like the soldiers, the trucks, the tanks that we saw earlier. This is like super complicated, but luckily past me made a little key here for this, so I can look inside of the big like table of doom and know what all of the numbers mean. Because if I didn't make that, then this is just a huge, massive table of God knows what. This is just loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of numbers and brackets and commas. And then this is just a little event here that makes it so the colour on the squares change if someone else claims it. So yeah, that's probably the most important script in the game. We have templates here. This is like the equipment template, the sub-equipment template. That's what this is what is cloned when you click on a square and it detects a soldier. It clones one of these. So, well, you can't actually see this unless I make this visible. But I can make the sub-equipment list visible, which just happens when you click on contents. Then you can like scroll down and see all of the soldiers and things. That's what this templates folder is for, and it adjusts the size of the scroll frames too, depending on how much equipment is there. There's also a little thing here. You won't notice this because I think it's invisible. But if you press button X on a controller, which is the Xbox layout, then it actually gives you a cursor. I did this so it's controller compatible. So if I connect my DualShock 4 controller, which is not an Xbox controller, but the game thinks it is, then I can either do this to like zoom in and things, which works. But then when I get down to the board, how do I click on the hammer and the gun to use everything, you know? So instead I can use button X to get the cursor to show up, which is super helpful because then it means I can do this and click on all of the buttons and actually play the game. This makes it compatible with like Xbox, whatever other consoles have Roblox available. Or you can just go on a PC and use a controller like I'm doing. Oh yeah, I put the whole sub-equipment list in here. Oops. Yeah, I meant to only move the sub-equipment template. This should be better now. Yeah, I saw like 15 infinite yield possibles at the bottom. I put wait for child in case there's an error, so it doesn't explode. Yeah, okay, I think it's fixed now. Yeah, it looks good. So yeah, that's what the controller thing's for. Blackout screen, safe area. You can't notice this on the PC, but I play tested on my phone, and then some of the UI was like hidden. Like it didn't really work because my phone had like a when the military thing came up and the construction thing came up on the sides, there was like a gap because my phone screen is curved, and I think a lot of phone screens are. Yeah, this is like an example. As you can see here, there's the top bar here. This is part of this. Otherwise, without this, there would just be a gap at the top, and that looks really bad. So I added gaps like that. And on here, if I don't think the right bar is working on this. Yeah, this is a square screen. If I find a curved screen, then I can show it to you. Wait, maybe these screens are curved. Yeah, see? I just wasn't showing it very well. As you can see, there's a big gap here on the side. Not on this one, not on this one. Yes, on the iPhone X though, as you can see, there's a huge gap here down the side. So by adding in these bars, it just makes it a lot more consistent, which is super helpful. Points tracker, this is just a little simple UI in the top left. It has this, which just finds the... I don't think I need raw len, do I? I'll just do hashtag. Yeah, it's still working. Yeah, there's no need to ever use raw len. Just put a hashtag there. Board has like folders for the squares. This is where all the squares go. And then railways and buildings. Here's the camera part. This is where the default camera spawns you in. If I move it down a lot, then it will spawn you really close to the board, as you can see. And then this is also where R goes to. So if I press that, it will just teleport me there. Selection box. So this is always present. Whenever you click on a square, it doesn't make a new selection box each time. It just changes the Adorny value of this one, and Adorny is just what it selects onto, if that makes sense. That's all that does. Lighting, I might add a skybox because just having like a blue sky with the board floating in it is kind of weird. But for now, that's what it is. Yeah, that's basically an overview of this game so far, and it's going quite well in my opinion. So it should be done in a few months, so stick around.